Welcome to New Realities. My name is Alan Steinfeld, and this is a very special show where I've collected a bunch of people from different communities around the world, and we're going to be talking about a new way of living together, a new paradigm that is being established where people are moving out of the isolation of their individual apartment or house and gathering with others to live in a different way. So I want to introduce today's panelists here. We have Isis Aquarius from the Source Brotherhood community, which is probably the oldest, most established community at the table here.
Early 70s.
Early 70s. And then next to Isis, we have Jim Stoll and Bernadine and Charles Paul Brown from the People Unlimited, which is a community based on immortality. Physical immortality is the key here.
That's the key.
The key. Physical immortality. We'll be talking more about that. And then to my left here is Ron and Victoria Friedman from the Vistar Foundation. And they have more of a collective group which deals with communication and understanding each other. And then next to Ron we have Alicia, who represents the One Taste community, originally out of San Francisco, and lives in a sexual collective of about 50 people. They're establishing something here in New York. And we're just going to throw it out and talk about this idea of living in communities. But let's start with Isis, because you were like a hippie community in the, right? I mean, you were like the person, you weren't.
We came in as hippies because that was the time frame, the late 60s, early 70s. And very quickly morphed into a mystery school of about 200 people living communally in the Hollywood Hills, and we ran a famous restaurant called The Source.
Right. And so what was the idea about when we'll get to everyone, the idea about living in community or working to community, how did that come about?
Well, you had the gurus, the ashrams. It was, people dropping out and forming like-mindedness. You vibrated to a certain group, and that's what happened. We became communal because we needed a very...
Go ahead.
Yeah, we needed to live together because we ran the Source together.
So, but there was a theme around living together, right? It was a...
we were a family. We were a tribe. It was a very, very tribal family energy. We had natural home births. We believed in, rituals, death and dying, having 3.5 days, and we had to contain it.
Right. Okay, now let's get to you guys. How did you come together as a community? And give us a little background about your philosophy.
Well, we started working together. Well, we've been working together for about 35 years now, speaking physical immortality.
Right.
And back in 75, approximately, we started working towards creating a community because we knew to really create what we wanted, a deathless life that took us out of just the philosophy of immortality. We wanted to create a support system of people who really were like-minded, that inspired each other and stirred each other to live a deathless life. So we started doing that in mid-70s, working to create a community. And now we have a community in Scottsdale, roughly 160, 175 people that meet on a regular basis, 2 times a week, plus weekend events, plus special events through the year, and then we're interacting with each other continuously every day. People are in businesses together, social events, but I need to make it clear, we're not a commune type of thing. We're a community of like-minded people.
You don't live together, but you're all within the same...
Scottsdale area, that's right, and Phoenix area, and so we're very distinct in the sense that we're very out there, you might say, out of the closet about being physically immortal.
Right.
I feel that's important to have a conviction about who you are and what you're doing, and it's very exciting. I mean, but we found that it's very important to have a support system and whatever you really feel a conviction of.
Right. I think that's true, and I think that goes for what Ron and Victoria are doing with Vistar, that you talk about the support system, because you also don't live communally, but you live within a relative small community. So talk about the support system of what the community means. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I mean, we have a group of people,
yes,
relatively small to the sizes you're talking about, who have been together for essentially 14 years. And we go, it's really about individual and group awakening. And in the process, we have discovered a way of being together, which has evolved, which leads to really what we call an evolutionary form of human contact and communication. So the people, we've gone through every phase of everyone's life. We have to expose, not have to, but we do in this way of working, all the elements that obstruct human communication, human relationship. And the support is extremely important because this kind of work is very challenging. Whenever people get together in a community, you're going to come up against every aspect of the ego.
Right, you get that right. So your community is about communication. That's really the focus, developing forms of communication.
I think that what has happened, what has unfolded, is this sense of unity that is present in a very awakened group happening. And that sense of presence and that sense of togetherness has been very creative for us. Of course, communication is beautiful in that realm, and has kept us together despite, it's very healing, despite anything that happens, with all the interactions, all the kind of conflicts that are natural for anybody who's has close contact with anyone. And somehow, I know everyone must feel that way of being together, it just heals it.
Right.
We come together and then we leave, and whatever was there, it's like having something rip you, and then when you leave, it's gone.
Do you want to say something?
It's a very warrior energy, isn't it?
Warrior.
Yes. Yeah, and what you said, coming out of the closet, that's exactly what's happening right now with spirit, with everything. And
Well, let's talk to Alicia, who's from the One Taste community, because it's a pretty radical thing that they're doing. 50 people sexually involved with each other, living in the same room. So talk about how that...
Well, Alan, that's one of the greatest things that I've experienced is it's very easy when you're looking at chargey subjects, when you're investigating chargey subjects like sexuality, sex, re-including that in the conversation, that you can be easily misrepresented because people have so much charge. So we're not, I wouldn't say we're a sexual community.
Okay.
It's not like there's orgies happening and that kind of thing, but there is in a sense a radical investigation happening to looking curiously and endeavoring to be curious about every aspect of human interaction. And so, yeah, there may be the fact that I've pretty much let go of any charge around going to the bathroom in front of somebody. You know, that's something, but we also look a lot at communication. We look a lot about how do people work together. What are all the dynamics of every type of relating and every type of living in community. You know, that New York, Manhattan is a community. That we are interdependent beings regardless of whether we like it or not. You know, we do have tribal core essence.
That's true.
You know, so yeah, actually, absolutely, we focus on sensuality because that's so often left out, and that One Taste is created as a vessel with intention and with precepts in order to allow people to come in any way they want, either in residency or some amount of residency to come in, or there's a much larger kind of extended community. And basically in the vessel, have the opportunity to look at all of those places that they haven't been able to, whether it's shame around their sex, or anger or rage or jealousy. It's like not only looking at all the beautiful aspects of human interaction, but having a safe environment where I can see your anger and I promise I won't split.
That's good. I think that's really good because you deal with baggage in your community. I think the key is that we are interdependent beings. I mean, the city would not function if we weren't all working together somehow. And I think our natural evolution was living it collectively. You know, natural evolution was living it collectively. You know, I think that's how we evolved as humans, to live in a bigger society. So I think what we're seem to be returning to is this collectivity movement. In your collective, you came up with you had one central focus leader, right?
We had a spiritual leader at the time that we called Father.
Yeah.
He empowered all of us to, and everything I'm hearing, we did or incorporated within, 200 people. We lived in one house. You know, like you said, go to the bathroom in front of somebody, and Yeah.
So where does it become like a community that's like becomes a sort of isolated thing, or an open expand? I mean, everyone has their own sort of language. All you guys have their languaging thing. So you sort of have to fit into the language to fit into the community. So I'm saying, how do you break through that memory? How do you become part of the community without being outside? Do you know? Go ahead.
Our community dispersed, but we stayed together, and we just all were a thread that creates that tapestry, and that's all of us are our own thread, and that's how we go out and intermingle, you know, with all of us coming together like we are here.
Charles?
We feel that you must all feel or have the same purpose in order to bring about a unity. And I myself awakened to physical immortality, a cellular happening, I call it, in the spring of 1960.
Right.
And I began to look for others, that I felt there had to be others, because I became aware that that was the next step, the next phase for humanity. So I met Bernadine 9 months later, and then Jim in 1968. And from there I began to move around the country looking for people, and realizing that in order to bring this about, there had to be a real cellular agreement, a biological agreement, a psychological agreement. And everything we've heard too is there's a lot of connection here going on.
Right.
And so I'm excited about this.
So it's based on a belief. You have to be part of this community. You want to know that it's possible to be physically immortal, or open to the possibility.
That's right.
Right. And in your community, it's not so much a belief, it's what to be included into your...
Well, I think what everyone is saying here is that people have gathered together for a cause.
Right.
And we certainly feel that. But we're interested in the actual gathering, put the cause aside. We're interested in what is the potential of people coming together. Because we've gathered together since the beginning of time. You know, we've gathered together for everything, for, you know, to protest, to fight, to, you know, to love. We've gathered together. But those are the causes. But there's a potential of gathering together. The fact, and we've always wanted to do that. So we are very interested in the actual gathering of people together, no matter, the cause is great, and every cause is wonderful to look at that, especially a spiritual cause. But, you know, the fact that we gather together, we're interested in seeing what is happening and what is the quality there.
So your doors are open to anyone who wants to gather?
We're very mainstream.
Right. And Alicia, what is there like a prerequisite to join One Takes or be... or be included somehow?
Well, not especially. Like I said, we have, it's sort of like concentric circles where there is a core residency where you might see that as like the monks that live at the temple or the ashram. They keep the kind of most pristine level of the different practices. And then you have the business, and so a lot of the people that live in residency help to create the business and are either, you know, paid employees or volunteers in some way. And then there are people, you know, who aren't residents who come in and help with the business aspects. And then there's this enormous extended community, and you can come, and if you want to spend a week living in residency, you can. You know, and then there are plenty of people who come and they might take one of our workshops or come to like an event or see a speaker.
Right.
And that's how they want to play in what everything that we create. And so there's this breath that happens, and it's really about people following their desires around what they want to have. That being said, we have looked really consciously, especially as the communities have gotten larger, we've looked really consciously at keeping enough permeability in the walls of the vessel so that it doesn't get stuffy inside.
Right.
And we found that we got so preoccupied on our own like practice and our own investigation that we couldn't see outside that well. And so there's this wanting to have the breath, so that there's a lot of movement in, and we're affected by what comes in, and there's breath created there, and then we're able to put out wonderful, beautiful things. So it's like that breath that we're constantly looking for, and that's what creates growth and expansion too.
Can you just talk about the thing of orgasm, putting that back into the conversation? Tell them about that, because I think they'll enjoy that.
Yeah, and I appreciate how you guys are so, yes, physical immortality. Boom, and it lands so clearly, and that's one of the things we really are unequivocally about orgasm. And well, and that's a great tagline of ours. That's like, we want to like we seek to weave orgasm back into the world conversation because it is the source of all life.
Yeah.
You know, and it's you know, for me, I came into this kind of work having done a lot of other work in a lot of other realms, and done a lot of spiritual work and that kind of thing, and I felt like I was really shut down. And the more aware I became of my own being, the more every time I started to peep in the direction of my sexuality, I was like, oh my God, there's so much shame and baggage and shut down. And I was carrying that around with me. It was affecting every moment of every interaction I was having with everybody.
Right.
You know, and then I see it in society that women, you know, are not taught